Morning. There is a website that I occasionally browse called Find a Grave, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. You can type in somebody's name, and it gives you basic information about them, date of birth, date of death. A lot of times you can see a picture of their gravestone. I know I need more exciting hobbies, but here we are. Anyway, it's kind of interesting. I can see that 4 generations of my family have been buried in a little cemetery in Waynedale, starting with my great-great-grandparents who died during the 1930s and 40s. And by clicking on links, I can follow my family tree. Sometimes I can come up with some really great name suggestions for grandkids. You might remember that before Charlie was born, Ellie was really insistent that he would be named Shadrach. Didn't know it at the time, but I guess it's a family name. We could go for Effarilla sometime. Didn't know that was back there. Bria and Stephen are getting married next week, so you can file this away. There is a Gettysburg in your family tree, and they called her Getty. So I don't know, not by Mrs., I guess. Anyway, following one line of the family back, I eventually got to this gravestone. Don't know if the slideshow is up or not, but no, it is. There we go. You probably can't read it because it's really old and worn, but it says Grandma Hunter. No date of birth, no date of death, no first name. A nearby gravestone tells us that her husband's name was Titus Hunter, but nothing else about her. And something about this reminded me of a verse in Ecclesiastes. The living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no further reward, and even their name is forgotten. Their love, their hate, their jealousy have long since vanished. Never again will they have a part in anything that happens under the sun. What was Titus Hunter's wife's name? Was their marriage a happy one? Were they the kind of people who got along with their neighbors and everybody liked? Or were they the kind of people that were always feuding with their neighbors? I don't know. But however important those things were about them at the end of the 18th century, they're forgotten now. Even their name is forgotten. Their love, their hate, and their jealousy have long since vanished. Wendell suggested that I revisit a message from several years ago on Ecclesiastes, so much of what I'll say this morning might sound familiar. It's typically regarded as a somewhat depressing book, almost existential in its outlook, with its emphasis on the meaninglessness of human endeavor. And there are certainly elements of that. Apart from God, all human accomplishments are meaningless, utterly meaningless. But I think there's more to the book than that. I'm not going to attempt a full exegesis of the book of Ecclesiastes in one sermon. That would be foolhardy and beyond me. I just want to share what I believe to be one of the themes that runs through it. And in order to do so, we need to first take a look at a word that's used often in the book, the word translated meaningless or vanity, the Hebrew word hevel. Used 37 times in Ecclesiastes, hevel literally means breath or vapor. It's often used elsewhere in the Old Testament to refer figuratively to something as fleeting and transitory as breath. The name Abel, Adam and Eve's son, whose life was cut short by his brother Cain, comes from the word hevel. His name was appropriate. His life was like a breath. Hevel is used in Proverbs 31. Charm is deceptive and beauty is hevel, fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. On the slides this morning, all the italicized words are hevel in the original Hebrew. So the word translated here, fleeting, is hevel, breath. Beauty is breath. The idea is not that beauty is utterly meaningless. God did create it, after all. The idea is rather that physical beauty is fleeting. It's here today and gone tomorrow. A woman should anchor her identity not in the rapidly shifting sands of outward beauty, but in God. Mankind are described as hevel, with lives as fleeting as breath. In Psalm 144, Lord, what are human beings that you care for them? Mere mortals that you think of them. They are like a breath. Their days are like a fleeting shadow. And in Psalm 39, show me, Lord, my life's end and the number of my days. Let me know how fleeting my life is. You have made my days a mere handbreadth. The span of my years is as nothing before you. Everyone is but a breath, even those who seem secure. Hevel in these passages doesn't carry connotations of worthlessness or meaninglessness. It simply emphasizes the fleeting, transitory nature of something by calling it breath or vapor. However, the word frequently is used with a decidedly negative bent, especially when referring to idols, which are so insubstantial and fleeting as to be worthless. In Deuteronomy 32, they made me jealous by what is no God and angered me with their hevel, their worthless idols. When Job responds to his friend's long-winded, ignorant speeches, he calls their words hevel. He says, I will teach you about the power of God. The ways of the Almighty I will not conceal. You have all seen this yourselves. Why then this meaningless talk, this hevel? Considering the range of meanings of hevel, breath, vapor, fleeting, transitory, worthless, how should we translate or interpret its use in Ecclesiastes? All translation involves some amount of interpretation, since a word in one language doesn't have the exact same meaning as any word in another language. When Jerome translated Ecclesiastes into Latin around the year 400, he chose to translate hevel as vanitas, or vanity. And that heavily influenced Christian translations and understandings of the book for centuries to come. The King James Version reads, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Multiple modern translations do the same, including the ESV and the NASB. Other translations use different words that carry the same decidedly negative connotations, meaningless, futile. Few translators have deviated from this practice of translating a word that literally means breath or vapor with an English word that denotes worthlessness. The Latin vanitas that Jerome used has a much narrower range of meaning than the original Hebrew, as does the English derivative vanity. While vanitas, vanity, meaningless, and futile are inherently negative, hevel isn't. It has a wider range of possible meanings, not all of which imply anything bad. Wendell pointed out that one English translation, the Berean Literal Bible, reads, vapor of vapors, the whole of it is vapor, which more closely captures the ambiguity of the Hebrew word. So what's really going on in this book? Is the author declaring life meaningless? Is he commenting on the meaninglessness of life apart from God? Is he using the word in a less negative way, perhaps reminding us that life is like a breath, that it's fleeting? And if this is his point, to what purpose? What good does it do us to remember the brevity of life? Well, Ecclesiastes is a difficult book. A 3rd century rabbi reported that at one time some wanted to withdraw it from the canon because of the apparent self-contradictions in it. I am far from an expert in Old Testament wisdom literature, and I do not pretend to have neatly solved a puzzle which has proven difficult for centuries of scholars. I would humbly propose, though, that the author of Ecclesiastes uses hevel in a nuanced way, sometimes pointing out the utter meaninglessness of life apart from God, and sometimes putting an emphasis on the fleeting, transitory, breath-like nature of all human life in order to exhort us to live wisely in light of that. I think he does this by intentionally using this ambiguous word that has a broad range of meaning. This nuanced use of a word is common in literature. A skilled author is well aware of the multiple shades of meaning that a particular term can convey and will often use a term in more than one way for literary effect. Consider one of my favorite plays, Shakespeare's Macbeth. Eric tells me this is Patrick Stewart. It's not, it's Macbeth, obviously. Anyway, early in the play, Macbeth is considering whether to murder the good King Duncan so that he can seize the throne. On the one hand, he wants to be king. And his wife is encouraging him to commit this bloody, treasonous act in order to become the king. On the other hand, he knows full well that there are consequences to be paid for such an act. The existence of God and of eternal rewards and punishments in Elizabethan England was a given. The Globe Theatre actually had the ceiling over the actors, this is a view like from the floor looking up, the ceiling over the actors was painted to symbolically represent the heavens, a reminder that our lives on earth are lived under the sovereignty of heaven above, and a trapdoor in the stage floor led to an area below referred to as hell. So Macbeth is on this stage with heaven pictured above him, hell threatening below him, debating whether he should kill the king. He knows that his choices are going to have consequences, and he fears that the price is more than he's going to be willing to pay. So during his internal deliberations, he says, "If it were done when 'tis done." He means, if only it were over and done with completely, with no consequences to pay once I've committed this act. His first use of the word done could be defined completely finished with, never to be thought of again with no consequences. As in, some of my kids thought that after they graduated, they were done with Shakespeare. I don't know, maybe they're right. I'm not sure if it's a coincidence or not. Rose has never heard me give a sermon, ever. And Winter's in Sunday school too. Anyway, here we are. But yes, done, completely over with, no consequences. His second use of done could be defined performed or accomplished, as in, I've done my homework today. Shakespeare was an expert wordsmith. He was writing a play in verse, and he made good uses of the nuances of the word done in this scene. I think the author of Ecclesiastes has made a similar use of the various shades of meaning in the term hevel. We can see in the extended metaphor that he uses near the end of the book in chapter 12 that he was a highly literary author, one who knew how to use words well. Consider the following from chapter 1. "The wise have eyes in their heads, while the fool walks in the darkness. But I came to realize that the same fate overtakes them both. For the wise, like the fool," no, I got to back up. "Then I said to myself, the fate of the fool will overtake me also. What then do I gain by being wise? I said to myself, this too is meaningless, for the wise, like the fool, will not be long remembered. The days have already come when both have been forgotten. Like the fool, the wise too must die. So I hated life, because the work that is done under the sun was grievous to me. All of it is meaningless, a chasing after the wind." In this passage, hevel is used in a clearly negative sense. The speaker hated life at that moment because the brevity of it for the wise as well as for the foolish rendered life pointless in his eyes. Or look at this verse in chapter 5. "Whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. This too is breath, meaningless." Again, hevel is used to denote something completely vain and useless, the continual, insatiable lust for wealth. So, hevel is clearly used sometimes in this book to refer to things and pursuits which are utterly meaningless. However, is it always used in such a completely negative way? Consider this passage. "Go, eat your food with gladness and drink your wine with a joyful heart, for God has already approved what you do. Always be clothed in white, and always anoint your head with oil. Enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, all the days of this hevel life that God has given you under the sun, all your hevel days. For this is your lot in life, and in your toilsome labor under the sun." Is the author really telling us to go enjoy our meaningless lives? I mean, would we say goodbye to somebody at the grocery store by saying, "Go enjoy your meaningless day"? Or does verse 9 make more sense read, "Enjoy life with your wife whom you love all the days of this fleeting as breath life that God has given you under the sun, all your fleeting days"? Is he reminding his reader that the time will come, or that the time that he has with his wife is limited, and that he should enjoy it to the fullest while he can? I think this reading makes more sense. Or how about this passage? "You who are young, be happy while you are young, and let your heart give you joy in the days of your youth. Follow the ways of your heart and whatever your eyes see, but know that for all these things God will bring you into judgment. So then, Banish anxiety from your heart and cast off the troubles of your body, for youth and vigor are heaven. Are youth and vigor really meaningless, or are they fleeting as breath? If they're truly meaningless, why are we exhorted in verse 9 to be happy and take joy in them? How could we rejoice in something pointless? And why should we banish anxiety if we're stuck in a futile existence? Wouldn't facing that fact actually induce anxiety? Doesn't it make more sense that we are being encouraged to enjoy the gifts of youth and health, knowing that they're ours for just a short time? I think perhaps the author wants his reader to contemplate life's brevity and live his life accordingly, not in despair, but enjoying good things while they last. A similar idea is expressed in Psalm 90, in which the psalmist contrasts God's eternal nature with man's temporal one. Lord, you have been our dwelling place throughout all generations. Before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the whole world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You turn people back to dust, saying, return to dust, you mortals. 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that has just gone by, or like a watch in the night. Yet you sweep people away in the sleep of death. They are like the new grass of the morning. In the morning it springs up new, but by evening it is dry and withered. Our days may come to 70 years, or 80 if our strength endures, yet the best of them are but trouble and sorrow, for they quickly pass, and we fly away. What's the value of dwelling on man's mortality? Verse 12 tells us, teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Keeping in mind the brevity of our lives helps us make the most of the days that we do have, to live them wisely. I believe this is one theme found in Ecclesiastes. Remember that our days on this earth are few. They are as fleeting as breath, and live them well to the glory of the Creator. This theme is supported by the substantial portion of the book that consists of Proverbs instructing us in how to live wisely. We are exhorted to be patient, not quickly provoked to anger, to avoid the temptations of immoral women, to be wise in our interactions with the authorities, to avoid laziness, and many others. In addition to these practical moral directives, we are exhorted to do something which seems very strange in a book that reminds us so often of our impending demise. Several passages actually command us to enjoy life. Let's take a look at these. There is nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. This also, I saw, is from the hand of God. For apart from him, who can eat or drink or who can have enjoyment? I know that there is nothing better for people than to be happy and to do good while they live, that each of them may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all their toil. This is the gift of God. So I saw that there is nothing better than that a man should rejoice in his work, for that is his lot. Who can bring him to see what will be after him? Behold, what I have seen to be good and fitting is to eat and drink and find enjoyment in all the toil with which one toils under the sun, the few days of his life that God has given him, for this is his lot. And I commend joy, for man has nothing better under the sun but to eat and drink and be joyful, for this will go with him in his toil through the days of his life that God has given him under the sun. Rejoice, O young man, in your youth, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Notice that in these passages, the ability to enjoy the things of life is repeatedly called a gift of God. The book does not espouse an existential outlook at all, but it roots our joy in our Creator. We looked at this passage earlier, but this time notice the directives to be joyful. Go, eat your food with gladness, and drink your wine with a joyful heart, for God has already approved what you do. Always be clothed in white, and always anoint your head with oil. Wearing white, having your head anointed with oil, culturally would have been signs of joy. Enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, all the days of this hevel life that God has given you under the sun, all your hevel days. For this is your lot in life and in your toilsome labor under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. For in the realm of the dead where you are going, there is neither working, nor planning, nor knowledge, nor wisdom. This passage is especially interesting when we compare it to a passage from another ancient text, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which predates Ecclesiastes. In this work, Gilgamesh is a king, and his best friend has just died. He is in despair. So he goes on a journey to find the secret of immortality. He succeeds in obtaining a plant which will grant him eternal life, but then a snake snatches it away and eats it, stealing his chance at immortality. Echoes of other things in there too, which are fascinating, but beside the point for today. Well, while he is on his journey, a goddess tells him, "Gilgamesh, where are you hurrying to? You will never find that life for which you are looking. When the gods created man, they allotted to him death, but life they retained in their own keeping. As for you, Gilgamesh, fill your belly with good things, day and night, night and day. Dance and be merry, feast and rejoice. Let your clothes be fresh, bathe yourself in water, cherish the little child that holds your hand, and make your wife happy in your embrace. For this, too, is the lot of man." The directives are similar. Sorry about the small font. I wanted to put them side by side. Someday you are going to die, so you should eat, rejoice, clothe yourself well, enjoy life with your wife while you can. But there's a significant difference. Gilgamesh is told to eat, drink, and be merry in spite of the gods' ill will. The epic includes an account in which the gods send a worldwide flood to destroy humanity. Why? Because humans are irritating the gods with their noise. In the world of Gilgamesh, man should seize the day because that is all he has. The gods have created man to die. When the gods created man, they allotted to him death. In Ecclesiastes, however, we are free to enjoy life because God favors it. He has not withheld good gifts, but has granted us these things, and we therefore please him when we derive joy from them. Conversely, in chapter 6, despair is actually caused by the failure to take pleasure in life. A man may have 100 children and live many years, yet no matter how long he lives, if he cannot enjoy his prosperity and does not receive a proper burial, I say that a stillborn child is better off than he. It comes without meaning, it departs in darkness, and its darkness its name is shrouded. Though it never saw the sun or knew anything, it has more rest than does that man, even if he lives 1,000 years twice over, but fails to enjoy his prosperity. There's actually a theme of joy that runs through this book. We are to enjoy life, keeping in mind that it's as fleeting as breath, and that we are responsible to God for the way we live it. Ironically, keeping the brevity of life firmly in view can actually help us to take joy in the good times. I remember sitting in my living room one day several years ago and looking around at just the perfectly normal, everyday things going on around me. Eric was working. I was reading to kids and helping with math and biology. Probably somebody cried about math. I don't know. But the kids were doing things normal, healthy kids do. It was just a perfectly normal, unremarkable day full of perfectly normal, unremarkable events. Nothing special about it. And I sat on my sofa and just soaked it all in. I rejoiced in it. I savored it because I knew that everything around me was fleeting. It could all disappear with one phone call or one blood test. Even if nothing went catastrophically wrong, none of it would last forever. And it hasn't. Life is still good, but it's different. My kids aren't under my roof. Likely we will never live all in the same state again. But I took joy in the people and the good things around me while I could. The knowledge that they were fleeting and transitory and not guaranteed allowed me to enjoy them more fully in that moment. There were so many times that I forgot about the brevity of life and each stage in it. So many days when I allowed the busyness of raising 6 kids or the inconveniences of normal life to distract me from enjoying the good aspects. But that day, I got it right, and I remembered to enjoy it. So how should we live in light of the wisdom of Ecclesiastes? How do we respond to frequent reminders that we are as a vapor, and yet we're to take joy in life? First, if God is sovereign over the past, the present, and the future, we are free to enjoy the good gifts he bestows on us now, however temporary they may be. To enjoy them is actually to do his will. Food on the table, family, the sun shining in the sky. I know I'm going to make one particular enemy, but Nate, thank you for opening the door. Functioning bodies, or mostly functioning, youth, shelters that for most of us are far more than adequate. All of these things are gracious gifts given to us to be enjoyed with thanksgiving for as long as we have them. We haven't earned them. We don't deserve them. No matter how hard we work for things, no matter how much we might pride ourselves on our self-sufficiency, God doesn't actually owe us anything. The very fact that we have functional minds and bodies able to work is a sheer, unmerited gift of God. God, in his gracious goodness, has bestowed good gifts on us. To enjoy them is actually to do his will and to glorify him. Second, we should be content now with our place in God's good creation. Our inclination is to be continually either looking back nostalgically at former days or anticipating some future time when we will finally have what we need to be happy. But Ecclesiastes 7:10 tells us, "Do not say, 'Why were the old days better than these?' For it is not wise to ask such questions." We cannot live a life overflowing with thankfulness to God for our present blessings if we are constantly obsessed with those no longer in our possession. This is not to say we shouldn't mourn the loss of good things, but we shouldn't let those losses consume us. Similarly, if to believe that we will be happy at some future point when our circumstances will finally be more to our liking is to fail to appreciate the good things God has given us now. Third, we ought to view work and the ability to do it as a gift, not just a necessary evil. Work in this context can be paid or unpaid. Employment status isn't the point. As numerous passages in Ecclesiastes tell us, and as Dorothy Sayre points out in her excellent essay, Why Work? Work is a good thing. It was part of God's original perfect creation. Granted, the fall has made work more burdensome, but it is still fundamentally good. The ability to work is a demonstration of God's kindness, and the choice to use that ability and to work hard is one way that we honor and obey him. If you've ever been ill or unable to work temporarily, do you remember how it felt when you recovered to be able to accomplish even the most mundane tasks? Suddenly washing the dishes or doing the laundry or going to the office seem like luxuries to be enjoyed. Jobs that you once dreaded, you now give thanks for simply because you no longer take for granted the ability to do them. The time is coming for each and every one of us that we will no longer have the opportunity to work. If we are granted the luxury of growing old, Ecclesiastes 12 will likely become an accurate description of us. Unless Christ returns first, every one of us will die, and as Ecclesiastes 9:10 points out, there's no work for us in the grave. Living in light of the New Testament, we know that this gift will be restored to us in the new creation, but we'll lose it for a time. I fail at this regularly, but each day that I am able to cook a meal, plan a lesson, sweep a floor, or scrub the church restrooms ought to be a day on which I thank God for the ability to do so. Fourth, the fact that we are a fleeting vapor should instill humility. God is eternal. We are not. And neither are the works that we'll leave behind. In chapter 1, where we read, "No one remembers the former generations, and even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them." A recognition of just how transient our lives really are leaves no room for pride or arrogance. We should take a humble view of our accomplishments and a humble view of our wisdom. God is omniscient. We are not. Whatever wisdom we can gain is so limited compared to his, a fact which should lead us to humility. The New American Commentary puts it well. We must abandon all illusions of self-importance, face death and life squarely, and accept with fear and trembling our dependence on God. Fifth, we should live in such a way that makes the most of our fleeting time. We should remember that death is coming so that we can live well the time we have. I think this is part of what Ecclesiastes 7:2 is getting at when it says, "It is better to go to a house of mourning than to a house of feasting, for death is the destiny of everyone. The living should take this to heart." Considering all the exhortations to be joyful, this can't mean that feasting is bad or that we should always mourn or be sad. But the knowledge that death is coming enables us to live more wisely now. The awareness of death is something we avoid in our modern culture. We can usually put it out of sight, out of mind. But in spite of modern medicine, in spite of scientific advances, the death rate is still 100%. On your deathbed, how are you going to wish you had spent your life? One application is to ask yourself, what are you going to wish you had spent more time doing? I think for every one of us, if we know that death is coming, there's going to be something that we wish we could spend more time doing. What's that going to be? On the risk of stepping on toes, I will mention one thing especially relevant in the 21st century, and I am including myself in this. When you are facing death, when you are reflecting on the way you lived the few precious years that you have had on this earth, I can promise that you will not wish that you had spent more of your life staring at a screen. You are not going to wish that you had pulled out your phone just a little more often, that you'd kept better track of that 24/7 news cycle, that you'd seen just a few more Instagram reels, or done just a little bit more online browsing. I promise you won't long to go back in time and be passively entertained just a few more hours a month. My dad is 86. He's raised 5 kids, and he's gotten to see grandkids and now great-grandkids. He knows just how fleeting these few decades that we spend on the planet really are. He says it always makes him so sad to be out in public and see a little kid with a parent who's looking not at that child who's going to be grown before they know it, but at a phone, a machine, a distraction from the eternal soul right next to them with whom they have just a few short years. Our time in this world is limited, and we should use it well. There are plenty of applications of this. I've mentioned this one because it's almost universal in 2026 American life. Lastly, while everything around us will one day be gone, everything around us is hevel, breath, there is something, or rather someone, who endures forever. It is not meaningless or futile to live a life of obedience which glorifies our eternal Creator. Chapter 12 begins, "Remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of trouble come." Real faith is not knowing theological truths, but living as though we're the center of life. Real faith is acknowledging that God is the center of everything, that his eternal existence is the reason that our mortal existence means anything at all. Faith is putting him at the center of everything we do. Pick up your Bible and read it. Orient your life around the one who created your life. If we do that, living wisely is a natural result. We can live each day asking ourselves, how can I glorify God in the choices I make today? In the way that I work, in the way that I interact with my spouse, my kids, my coworkers, and my neighbors. Live in such a way while you're young that when you're old, you are not looking forward to death itself. Death is an enemy, but you can look forward to meeting Jesus, to finally meeting face to face the one that you've lived for and come to love. Yes, unless Christ returns first, we will one day die, be buried, and probably eventually be forgotten by everyone on the planet, just like Grandma Hunter. But we serve a good God who, in spite of these ruinous effects of the fall, still showers us with good gifts to be enjoyed. This is true even more so in light of the New Testament truth revealed. This life is fleeting as breath, but at the resurrection, all will be restored. Everything will be set right. Cemeteries will be emptied. And we will be free to enjoy God's good gifts, not for a brief season, but for all of eternity. Remember, we are as a vapor. God is eternal. Whatever difficulties and enigmas the book of Ecclesiastes may contain, the conclusion is clear. Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. I think at this time the musicians are going to come forward and we'll close. Is that the case?